databases, I just want to say that the military or the Army is part of, the Constitution. So keeping a list of who are our soldiers or not, I'm not objecting to that database. It's good to know who's in the Army or not. So I just wanted to point that out. The other thing is the argument that this is...
For reclaiming my time on that point, we also happen to think it is good to know whether someone who is attempting to take a job illegally is entitled to that job. And that is what the E-Verify system is all about. It consults existing databases just as any case of stolen valor would consult an existing database, this one of our veterans.
Would the gentleman yield?
Sure.
To the point of it consults existing databases, that's the way the NICS system works as well. It consults existing databases. And many of these background checks consult existing databases. The fact that you're referencing the database doesn't mean that the database doesn't exist. And I yield back.
And again, what you're doing is you're creating a market for fraudulent documents, just different fraudulent documents that are presented right now. I yield.
Isn't that what E-Verify does?
Thank you, my friend, Mr.
Thank you. And
no,
I'm intrigued because I share your skepticism of NICS. But I'm thinking to myself, this is a gentleman who probably has never witnessed how the E-Verify system works when somebody comes in and is applying for a job, like I have seen. Something in the magnitude of nearly 100% get immediate responses, whether they have presented a valid identification or not. This is different than NICS. The NICS system is asking for something entirely different. We are asking something very uniquely American. That's what we're doing. And the reality is, I'm looking at the gentleman who I have esteem and respect for and say, you ain't never seen it happen. I have. And it works. And it works in Arizona. And so you're about to, and the gentleman from California is right, you're about to create a new black market for fake identification.
Would the gentleman yield?
I will.
Would the gentleman yield?
I don't control the time. I'm yielding back to Mr. McClintock.
I'll yield my final seconds.
Well, thank you. The gentleman says it works in Arizona. It may very well work in Arizona, but all the American farm organizations say it doesn't work in our farming areas, which are predominantly north of Arizona.
Which is what is undermining the law itself.
Gentleman's time.
The gentleman keeps telling us no one is above.
Gentleman's time's expired. Mr. Correa, seek recognition? You recognize 5 minutes.
Thank you, sir. I just wanted to comment on the issue of uniquely American. Most of you may have heard me talk about Jose Angel Garibay, the dreamer that was the first casualty of war, made the ultimate sacrifice in the Iraq War, first Iraq War. Dreamer, 21 years old, mother undocumented. He laid down his life as his country. Posthumously, we made him an American citizen. I've met with a lot of veterans, green card holders, deported veterans. One of them served 10 tours of duty in Afghanistan, came back challenged psychologically. I wonder if it's American to question them whether they have the right to a job in the United States. That's what we're talking about here, folks. Veterans. Veterans who have fought, like most of us have not, for this country, and come back and simply want to work.
Would the gentleman yield?
Of course.
When I meet with my veterans groups and my veterans back in the district, it's always one of the top 3 issues is employment for veterans later. And we should not seek to make it harder for them to get a job, ever. I mean, we owe it to them. And here in Congress, we implement so many exceptions or exemptions, or we try to create an environment where veterans can more easily get a job when they return from service to our country, to service in our country. And so I agree with the gentleman. They don't need another impediment to getting a job, no matter how minutely small it might be. And I yield back.
I agree with my colleague from Kentucky. If you talk to veterans, they're very quiet, shy, reserved individuals who it takes a lot to get them to talk about their experience in the field of war. It takes a whole lot more to get them to apply for a job or to ask for anything at all to help them to get a job. And for us to put another impediment in front of a veteran to get a job, that is un-American. Chair, I yield.
Mr. Chairman.
Gentleman yields back. Who's recognized? Who seeks recognition? Mr. Gaetz?
Well, I would observe that perhaps in some cases the impediment to a veteran getting a job is an illegal alien illegally competing against that veteran for a job. And that probably happens with far greater frequency than E-Verify functioning as the barrier between a veteran and employment. I believe I still represent the highest concentration of veterans and active duty service members in the entire United States Congress, and certainly while veteran employment is an issue at the top of their list, when I talk to many of them, they reflect on the fact that they serve a nation that is not serious about protecting its border, that is not serious about internally enforcing its immigration laws, and the patriotism that I see reflected in veterans would certainly be would be in line with this in a moment, because I have to address for a moment the distinguished ranking member's characterization that while something might work in Arizona, it might not work in an agricultural community. And so perhaps the gentleman from Manhattan would note that if you eat any leafy green vegetable in the wintertime in the lower 48 of the United States, there is like a greater than 50% chance that it was grown in Yuma, Arizona, maybe closer to 80%. So while they're munching down on their butter lettuce and kale and other terrific leafy green vegetables in Greenwich Village, they can thank some Arizona farmers who are effectively using E-Verify today to ensure that that salad is delicious and well enjoyed. And I would yield to my colleague from Arizona to further opine as to the agricultural prowess of his beloved state.
Yeah, I would say I thought it was remarkable. It indicates that you weren't listening to any of the comments that I've made on E-Verify earlier. 90% of all leafy green that comes to you in the winter comes from Yuma, Arizona. And many on this committee have come with me, and we've wandered the fields and talked to the growers, the major growers who work not just in Yuma County, but in Imperial County to the west of us in California, as they produce tremendous agricultural products. Some of the biggest dairy farms are in Pinal County, Arizona. One of the top 15 egg producers in this country is in Maricopa County, Arizona. Somehow they all manage to use the E-Verify system, and it works for them, which gets to the point. In Maricopa County and Pima County, you have two of the larger veteran populations in the country. I meet with veterans when I'm in the district almost weekly. I never have anyone say, gee, Andy, you know, since for the last 16 years we've had the E-Verify system in Arizona and I'm having trouble. That's an impediment to me as a veteran to get a job. Never has that been raised. Never has that been raised. But they have raised, I'm competing with low-wage illegal aliens who have come in. They have mentioned that. Well, I yield back to my friend from
Mr. Biggs,
Florida, and I thank you.
I yield to Mr. Buck.
I would just appreciate if my friend from Arizona would acknowledge that the water that's used for those Arizona leafy products comes from Colorado. All this Arizona stuff is making me a little ill. Let's acknowledge where the water comes from.
I'll reclaim my time and yield to Mr. McClintock.
I just wanted to observe how ironic it is to use veterans who have sacrificed so much through the centuries to defend our borders abroad as an excuse to undermine those borders here at home. And I yield back to the gentleman.
Yield to Ms. Johnson.
Thank you. I just want to note, I'm sure Mr. Biggs would agree.